Well, g'day there. I just thought I'd better make a more concise, down to a practical video, not full of heaps of rants. Unless someone can take my other one and edit it. I don't know how to do that. I don't have a video editor or anything. I just wanted to get my idea out there. So the idea, basically, we want free flight, silent flight. Um, you know, just harnessing natural forces. And the force of the vortex, I've explained it several times in plenty of other videos, but as I say, I've got to make it a nice concise one. So here is the front of a blimp. It's exactly like an egg. So if you understand how a bird lays an egg, comes out the big side first, very gently nudges at the opening of the vent, which then forces the muscles to open, and then as they squeeze around, it just gently pushes the egg through. So it does the same process in the air, is that to go forward slightly, the air just gently moves all the way around, in 360 all around it, and as it closes in around it, it actually helps push your vehicle forward. And your vehicle is basically down the bottom. This is a very simple sketch. Now I'm going to change how I've got the wings down here. I actually think having the wings up here would work even better, because you could have big long plane, they call it an airplane. Well, a flat plane above there would actually work really well. And you've still got your tail rudder, like a big fish tail, as explained before. This here, this is your air multiplier. And I did mention using like drone type wings, extra elevation lifts before. This is the type of propulsion system that I mentioned. This is not a licensed copy of the Dyson bladeless fan air multiplier, but I think all technology should be free for everybody to use. It shouldn't be under license. And this is a cheap Chinese copy. Now this base on it, I think that's a design fault. They deliberately built into it so that we couldn't use it for anything apart from blowing cool air through your lounge room, keep you cool. And it's a beautiful design in that it doesn't chop the air, so it's not a chopper, which is good because the air is an angel. We want to harness her in the most natural, efficient ways, not chop it with these blades and polluting engines, noisy, violent force that man uses. This is just natural form of air propulsion, air multiplication. The way that works is when this sits on a base, which I've taken it off, I had to pull it apart to try and work out how it works. So what I would do when I make 3D printed versions of these, hopefully getting all these angles should be helpful for somebody. Won't be long before we'll be able to get the program to do it, is make this ring down the bottom here, just close that right up, make it much smaller, and instead you just put little struts from here all around. Like, you have multiple of them really. It's like the more the merrier, because the more air you're forcing through these compressed air tubes for it, then you don't need this one little turbo fan at the bottom. But you can also put them like this under the wing. I should have mentioned that before. Instead of using those drone type technology, it's just easier for people to understand. But if you also have them under your wings, creating lift by pushing the air down, that would still give assistance. Now this is filled with helium, so it naturally wants to lift, and you'd have it in such a way that the amount of helium you had in there, which you could just add extra small, or big balloons. I've actually got one over here. This was just something I was doing a bit of experiment with, just with air, just for shape, just for aerodynamics. This isn't the ideal blimp shape, mind you, but it's a start. I mean, this is just full of air and it floats pretty well. And it's been inflated for weeks and weeks. So by the time you put a bit of ballast underneath it to weight it down, be more like that shape, but then you tilt it on its side like that. So you can sort of get an idea if I put that there, roughly how it's going to look. So your weight underneath here is your ballast, and that way you'd have enough helium in here to counterbalance the effect of your ballast, the weight, by putting more and more even balloons just like that, or slightly bigger, slightly stronger ones, but you gotta be careful not to go too big and strong because the balloon itself would have weight. But even as I say, full of air. If it was full of helium, it'd stick to the ceiling. So to fill up a human sized, a big one, you'd make it fairly big, not Heisenberg big, but big. Fuck, we're Breaking Bad again. Yeah, you could just actually have openings in the bottom of your blimp shell. Like, I would think rigid or semi-rigid is good, even just like parachute material would be adequate if you just put extra helium balloons inside till you had sufficient for whatever cargo you were carrying, so that it's virtually weightless. And then the way to gather lift is both with wings pushing air down, that one pushing air out the back, and then the plane across the top. So you just sort of gently rise up nice and silently. You have big compression chambers down in here, of course, filled with compressed air. You just fill up at the garage with free air. Don't need any fuel in this thing. You have, the top would also be covered in solar panels, so you could, get your stereo pumping and your cameras and your air compressor. You could have air compressors in there. I mean, you could use bicycle style or gym equipment things to, look at this really cool. There's a treadmill. You could make electricity from that. You got this little guy. You could attach pumps to it to, so you're working out in the gym on your trip to work, and you could actually be compressing air, which goes into the compression chambers to be released via valves and so forth through your air multiplier, which draws more air around it and pushes it out in the back and gently gets you off to work free of charge, assuming you need to go to work, because somebody's got to make the deliveries. These would be awesome delivery vehicles, and you could just pop down the top. You'd have like a chimney in every house. It's just a portal type thingy with that just connect to via chips and stuff. Chips. I'm getting ahead of myself here. The purposes for it is, that'll all come into view later. Basically, I just got to get the idea out. So anyway, the cameras, as I mentioned before, that you'd have on the wings and all around it, with projectors. You got these really cool little projectors these days, so the technology is getting better and better all the time. You could actually make it invisible quite simply by a camera on that side sends the signal to the projector on this side to project that image on this side and vice versa, so you'd actually only see what was on the other side of it, which would make the whole thing disappear virtually, except for the little bits of equipment which you'd barely notice. If you wanted to, like, you wouldn't always want to do that, but the other beauty of using that is you can project colour. So certain colours attract the heat more than others, so if you put a really dark colour out of the projectors, then obviously it's going to heat up by natural sunlight to give you extra lift for free, and to come down again you could also be using colours that release the heat. You'd also have the inner skin sort of wired up with a whole heap of LED lights that don't use much power, but the ones specifically designed to create heat. So instead of using big massive propane blowtorches like hot air balloons of the old days, just use some good innovative technology, maybe even halogen lamps, to pump out a mass load of heat to give it extra lift as well. And as I say, it's running off solar. You can still plug it in to recharge at night, because you don't want to carry too much in the way of batteries, of course. You want to make everything as light and as efficient as possible. And compressed air, nice and silent, so all you're really hearing is whatever sound air makes, which isn't very much. I hate motors, I have to say. I think this is the way to get past the old technology of the internal combustion engine and use large compression chambers, which you can make out of long pieces of PVC pipe and valves. So valves can be just controlled easily either with levers or knobs. A bit of steampunk technology doesn't hurt, but again, lightweight is best, so you're not going to make it all out of copper and leather, but that'd be pretty cool too. Copper and leather and timber. Fuck yeah. And you can even use sails like kite surfers use. You can chuck a couple of them out there if you've got long distances to go. If you've got experienced pilots, you're not only actually flying, like seriously flying, but you're having a blast doing it too. Make life a bit of fun. Super safe technology, because you've got heaps of little helium balloons in there, so not much can go wrong. Even if somebody shot it down, it's just going to gently waft down to the ground. It's not going to blow up. And if they bumped into one another, your pilots will be all like, "Oh, sorry mate, didn't see you there," bounce off each other and keep going on their merry way. So pretty safe. Anyway, I think that's covered the bases. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you can get inspired by it. Oh, the air harnessing bit, I didn't mention that. This was my first concept of the air harnessing wing. I did mention the others. If you had it on a big plane across the top would work as well. Why not have both? Basically then, so your wing is a long, I didn't really draw a front section, that's a bit like that. So there are your wings at the front, those two. You could even have a massive big air multiplier around the back if you wanted to, like where the tail is. There's so many options to try and experiment with to get the air pushing it, propelling you forward. But your wings, right, the front part of it has just a roller shutter type of thing, which the pilot, again, the captain, he can use switches or levers to pull them open so that the wind blowing into the front of it goes into the wings and comes out through they're not even drawn in yet, but there'd be, I've got the little air multiplier back there, but it'll basically capture the wind in front of it as well to push it through your air multiplier even more so. And these air multipliers work on the principle that they multiply the amount of air pushed through this ring, through this little thin slot here, because it's a wing shape, and actually sucks in more air. And what comes out and hits you in the face or in your lounge room is 15 to 17 times more air than what is pushed up through the bottom in its little blades. That's why it's called an air multiplier. So by opening the wings then, have the air rushing through one-way valves, so it's only got one way to go, and out through your things here, you've got natural acceleration once again. And then to slow down, you just close up your valves again if you're going too fast. Open them up to get heaps of, and away you go, wafting through the air, free of charge, silently, no noisy motors. The most noisy thing you'd have is a little, maybe air compressor, like a little fish tank one, or an air pump. You're sitting there pumping a bloody bike pump. There's so many ways of harnessing air. So, hope you enjoyed that, and hope you can be inspired to see this project come to light, and maybe even think about help fund me to try and make my own prototype, because it will take a bit of money. I'm going to need more balloons. Weather balloons I think would be good tough things to fill it up. Parachute material, But it shouldn't be too expensive. 3D printer. I think there's people around that can do the 3D printing, because you want to make that like big size, not this little desk fan size, but the size of a bus or bigger. You could even use it for cars running on wheels too. I mean, wheels themselves, as they're rolling downhill, can be used to pump air as well. That's another project I might have to do a little rant about another time. But yeah, if you use the power of the gravity of the weight of the vehicle rolling downhill, you can pump up air compression chambers too, to then get acceleration for when you're on the level and to try and get you up the hill. And the lighter you make your vehicle, like having some helium in it, so you're barely on the ground most of the time, well, yeah, free energy. There's got to be a million ways of harnessing free energy, and hopefully this is one.